I was watching this like whole thing unfold. I was like, this is the dance between masculine and femininity. Like people think that it's this fight between one or the other, or that if women rise, that it's downfall of men, or if men are rising, it's the downfall of women, or if it's whatever. It's like it really was it was like such a beautiful representation of the fact that like there's so much power and so much creation, there's so much healing, there's so much energy comprised in that feminine energy, and that it's the masculine that provides the protection and the support and the container to allow that part to actually do its job. Hey, Brooke, thanks for coming on the podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to have this conversation, Mama.
I know. I know you and I met, I don't know, it feels like forever ago, but I guess it was just like 6 or so, not even 6 months ago. And it has been so amazing and so beautiful to watch and just like see you showing up on social media and to be able to connect in DMs and then in our little WhatsApp group and things like that. But I know majority of my audience probably doesn't know who you are already. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about your story and your journey and how you got here today?
Yes, I would love to. So, as she said, y'all, my name is Brooke Jean. My brand is Brooke Jean Unperfected. And I am on a mission to normalize normal and guide women to let go of who they think they're supposed to be so that they can get busy creating lives they love. And we go deep in that work. The method is a heal, reveal, and rise. And so we do therapy, we do coaching, we do groups, we do retreats, masterminds, and a podcast, all sorts of ways that we collectively unmask and unarmor and come home to ourselves. And how this was born, I had my first son in college and I started my career in the corporate setting because getting pregnant in college like wasn't on the vision board that year. Oh, okay. Well, it saved my life, honestly. And so I spent 10 years climbing the corporate ladder, trying to be the perfect leader, the perfect mom. Like when I wasn't working, which it was a very strenuous job, I was trying to keep up with the stay at home moms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically burnt myself out of my corporate career at 33 years old. And there's a big story behind that. But what really birthed Unperfected is I had my daughter 14 years later. And I'll never forget this moment, Renee. I was nursing her. It was the middle of the night. Like all of my fluid from getting induced for 3 days with no baby coming was dropping to my ankles. And I was like miserable. And I was like, what is wrong? And I was questioning, like, what have I done? And I had noticed that there was a rise in the pressure of being the perfect mom and the difference in that between my son 14 years ago when there wasn't the internet and there wasn't all this like influx of information about how to do everything right.
Yeah.
I had noticed that there's just a rise in the expectation of the modern mom. We're not just having the babies and raising the babies. We're also working. Many of us are not just working. We're actually the breadwinners. We're also still volunteering in the classroom. And now we're not just cooking meals. They have to be dairy free, soy free, nut free, dye free. Now we're not just raising children, we're playing with them. We're not just playing with them, we're building sensory games. We're not just like kids don't even eat school lunch. You have to pack a Pinterest worthy bento box, all while still having a size 2 body and like not even a chin hair out of place, bro. And here
Yeah.
I am in the middle of the night crying because I'm like, this is actually not possible. And so as a licensed professional counselor, I zoomed out and I saw this parallel between this rise in the expectations of the modern mom. Like nothing has come off our plates ever since the inception of being a mother, we've just added more
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Well, it parallels a rise in our mental health issues.
Mhm.
So women were surpassing men with drinking problems. We have more anxiety, more panic disorder. Live like, 80 to
Burnout.
90%,
Mhm.
yeah, of the autoimmune is coming from women. And so I literally like saw it. It was like a come to Jesus where I was like, we're making ourselves sick trying to
Yes.
keep up. We're not just keeping up with the Joneses anymore. We're keeping up with the Kardashians.
Mhm.
And I made a conscious choice because I was having some postpartum depression too. So I was having some scary thoughts, which I knew were the depression, not me. But I made a conscious choice to unsubscribe
Mhm.
from all of this stuff that I was supposed to do and do it well and be so grateful. And instead, I was going to turn my attention inward and remember who the hell I am and what are the things that light me up as a person. And those couple of things were going to be the guideposts of how I
Mhm.
was going to parent and lead and do all the things. And so when I unsubscribed from trying to be the perfect fill in the blank, shortly thereafter, I birthed the brand Unperfected. So it's very personal and it's
Yeah.
been a journey of letting go and really starting to remember and unearth and embody the things that matter the most to me and letting those guide my life and really just restoring my power and my energy and my sanity. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me and the work that I
Uh,
do in the world.
I love it. And I think there's just like so much we could talk about this. Like there's so many different roads and I'm like, "Oh, we could talk about that." But one of the things that came up for me that I just want to like highlight first is, do you feel like from it sounds like you already knew who you were. It was like a coming back to yourself. Do you think that that's the majority? Or do you think that there's a majority of the women out there who haven't yet figured out who they are? Because, like, I think for me, growing up in such a not sheltered, but very sheltered conservative home, and then going to a conservative college, and then getting married really young, and then having kids relatively young, and all this, like, just throughout the journey, I don't know that I ever really knew who I was in that process. And like you said before, like midlife, I don't know if it's because I've turned 40 and I've been doing all of this work in building a business and like uncovering limiting beliefs and really leaning into myself, that maybe that's been part of why, like, the last couple years I'm like, fuck it, this is who I am and I don't care. Like, I remember my husband when we were talking about doing something and I was like, dude, I don't want to go. And he's
Mhm.
like, but we should go, like, support blah blah blah. And I was like, I hear you, but I'm telling you, it sounds miserable inside, and I don't want to go. If you'd like to go, by all means, go. But I have no problems saying, nope, I'm not going. And I think that part of me hasn't come out until recently. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a coming back to, it's a full new discovery. It's like a whole new discovery of like, what is it that I actually like? And I think even for this last year, like with my clients and stuff, we've been talking a lot about pleasure and like, what do you enjoy? Like, what really brings you pleasure? And like, one, just permissioning ourselves to actually be okay with pursuing pleasure. I think it's kind of the same
Exploring.
vein of like, yeah, like same vein of like being okay, feeling like you have the permission to go after wealth and desire wealth. So it's like these two things, wealth and pleasure, I think have been like categorically put into this masculine, okay for men to want and desire. But for women, it's been in this box of like, women aren't meant to desire wealth or pleasure. And so it's kind of been this other over here, don't go there. And so I think for me it's like now we're in this new era, and I, like I said, I don't know if it's midlife or if it's just like the season of where our culture's at, but I think women are waking up to, hey, I can actually desire things. Like I had my clients this last couple weeks go through and do like 100 desires, and they all had a really hard time coming up with 100 things that they really desire. And I think if we gave that to a list to a man, he would have no problem coming up with 100 things on his list of things he desires. So I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, because it sounds like for you, it was maybe a little mix of both, but it was kind of more of this coming back to you.
Yeah. So my theory on this, babe, is that it's a remembrance and you actually
Mm-hmm.
have always known. It just started getting buried under society's expectations
Mm-hmm.
when you were in utero. And it gets to be a co-creation of what you want and who you are now.
Yeah.
And so that's why the healing portion is so important in my work because we've become who society has told us is digestible, is popular, is palatable, is
Mm-hmm.
safe. And so, like, we were never not, it's not that we didn't care about wealth, it's that we were taught that was bad.
Yeah.
And so we never explored it. But if you go back to when you were like 4, you didn't question who you were. You knew exactly what you wanted to do, who you wanted to play with, how you wanted to play outside. You didn't question if it was cool or not. Once we become aware of other people's opinions and that they have
Mm-hmm.
judgments about us, which is about 7 or 8 years old, that is when we start abandoning the truth of who we are. So there's all this research that shows like artists stop creating art at 7 or 8. Why is that? Because in psychology, according to human growth and development, that's when we realize, oh my God, the world isn't all about me. And what other people think of me matters because if I don't fit
Mm-hmm.
in and I get bullied and I get put out, it's a survival thing. And so many of us are walking around armored up in our protective parts.
Yeah.
And perfectionism, by the way, is a protective part. So is control, so is anxiety, so is avoidance, all of that. So we first got to heal the part of us that was born to fit in and for survival. And what I've realized in the 20 years that I've been doing this work is when we spend the time and the attention and the attunement to do the work, girl, who you are and what you really want will inevitably bubble up. But we also have been at war with our bodies, many of
Mm-hmm.
us since we were little girls, if not preteens. And so the cues, like the truth of who we are, what we desire, what pleasure we want, what lights us up, it's we're disconnected. The channel is turned off. And so we've got to heal our relationship with our bodies to open up the channel and start to heal the parts that are protecting us. And then we remember. We remember
Mm-hmm.
that we used to love to dance. We used to love to sing. We used to love to frolic in the ocean, that we love to tell jokes, that we love to solve problems. And then on top of that, from a place of truth frequency, we do get to build who we are now and,
Yeah.
give ourselves permission to go explore new things. And so I think it's both. I do believe we've always known who we are. It's buried under who we've become because that's who the world
Mm-hmm.
wanted us to be. And we get to remember that we're such powerful creators that we get to create the who we are now. And so as a woman in business, as a working mother in business, I get to be different today than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant exploration, but it's not an exploration from the head and the fear. It's an exploration from the heart, the gut, the intuition, and the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, does it make me freaking excited to see women remember and wake up and start like living in
Yeah.
alignment. Like when you tell me, I told my husband I don't want to. First of all, when he said, but we probably should. Anytime there's a should, y'all, that is a beautiful opportunity to look deeper and go, but is it a desire? Am I going to show up wholeheartedly? Or is it an
Mm-hmm.
obligation? Because people can feel when it's an obligation. And so for
Mm-hmm.
you to say, actually, I don't want to, do you know how powerful that is? That is like revolutionary.
Yeah.
I don't want to. And it gets to be a full sentence because
Mm-hmm.
your I don't want to for that gets to be like energy for the snuggles with your kids tonight before bed, or the book that you're working on, or the date night, or the hobby, or I don't care what your things are that you're into. You get to
Mm-hmm.
choose. but we are just like bleeding precious energy trying to keep up and be a good girl. And I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
Yeah. So, in that sense of like being the good girl, I'm curious. So, this last week, I was talking to somebody and she was just like making small talk conversation. She was telling me she's a historian. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, like what? Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, what did you, And her whole thing was like women's rights. And like,
mm,
she's a women's
mm,
rights
mm.
historian. So
Wow.
she's researched and done all this stuff. And it was just like in small talk conversation. I'm like, I want to go back and touch base with her deeper and go deeper, but she was talking about this evolution of like when women got the right to learn, like to have an education, and then when women had the right to vote, and when women actually had the right to receive medical care, and when women actually had the right to stand up for their medical care. We were talking about like the season of lobotomies, and when men could just take their wives and say, she doesn't agree with me anymore, I'm just going to institutionalize her, right? And so we had this like really
Wow.
amazing conversation. And like I said, I want to go back and like dig in. She's written a bunch
Yeah.
of books and stuff.
Hmm.
And so I like, one, I hear that and I see her story and I see the progression and I, recognize like, I recently posted like women haven't been included. Like women by law were not required to be a part of medical studies until 1993.
What?
Yes. 1993. They were
Dude.
like intentionally excluded from medical
Oh my
studies prior to
God.
1973. So, since 1973, prior to that, all of our medicine was based on men. So, birth control, lobotomies, like all of these things that were done before there was any sort of education or knowledge or research on how women operate. And so, we were just talking about this like essence of that. And like women weren't allowed to own a bank account. You could not own a bank account until 1986. Just all these things, like the
Wow.
progression that we've made in women's rights in the last century is paramountable. Like you and I probably don't even recognize it, but like what has actually occurred in the last 100 years is substantial in terms of like the freedom and the rights that women have. And so looking at like you talking about this sense of not being able to express ourselves, well, we've had a lot of prior years, but up until this last 100 years that we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to do that. It wasn't safe to do that. We weren't able to. So that's one piece of this. But then the other piece I keep seeing is I almost feel like we're at this turning point where people are trying to go back, right? Like we see it politically. We see it in this trad wife sort of mentality. We see just like there's a lot brewing. I think this whole element of like women claiming their power and really remembering who they are and like really stepping into this like fullest embodiment sense of themselves, there's a threat on that right now. Like there's this really tensious sort of environment in that. I think, like you said, it's amazing. We're seeing all these women coming up, rising and remembering. And there's a lot of people that are not happy with that. And there's a lot of fear and resistance to that. And so, anyway, just bringing that into the space, would love to see and hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Oh.
girl, so this is my take on that. We have a biological response to the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing now is hundreds of generations of women saying we want to do it different while we've been conditioned to sit down and shut up. And
Mm-hmm.
so men and women, because we can't control what that's going to look like. We can't control the outcomes. We would choose a familiar hell. And I'm not saying that we live in hell, but let's be honest, like there's a massive disconnect. Okay.
Yeah.
We're just getting rights in the 1990s. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
insane.
Yeah.
We would choose a familiar hell over being in the unknown. And so while I don't agree with that, I can have compassion. And so to
Mm-hmm.
me, I go, well, we need to educate people, number one, on managing their fear responses, which is a trauma response, and giving them, the tools on how to navigate uncertainty. And then also like inspiring women to have courage. Like it's now more than ever, guys. Like how's it going with letting the men rule the things? That's what I want to know. How's it going? We are literally the sickest we've ever been in America.
Yeah.
How's it going? We have more technology, we have more access, and we're the sickest we've ever been. You have to ask yourself why that is. Because there's not a woman's voice at the table looking at the thing holistically. And I don't even care what the thing is, it could be anything. And so I think people are getting scared because it's so different, it's revolutionary, and at some point in their lineage, it costs women their lives to
Yeah.
question. So this is real transgenerational trauma, which is why I don't just like pick fights with people about it on the internet. I'm like, this
Yeah.
shit runs deep, my loves. But we have to understand what we're doing here. We're choosing familiar over something new while giving away our rights, which what is that really doing for us and our health and well-being, and certainly what is that doing for our daughters? So I would say to
Mhm.
the women that are still holding on, they've been so conditioned to believe the lie that this needs to be the way that it is,
Mhm.
that their nervous systems are just not ready yet to branch out into the unknown and to remember their power.
Mhm.
But anybody who's listening that's had a baby, you tell me a man, and I'm not a man hater. Listen, I have a husband that I love and I have a son that I love, but they understand the power of a woman.
Mhm.
And any woman who's had a baby, and I don't care how you had the baby, even if you adopt it, whatever, the strength that we have as mothers is otherworldly. And when we think about uprooting that power and putting it together collectively for good use, I think that scares a lot of people. But I think we need that wake up call now more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have to answer is like I totally agree with you. I see it. I have compassion for it, and I'm making it
Mhm.
my life's work to inform us that guys, there is another way. There is
Mhm.
another way.
So I went to this retreat back in January, I think, of this year. And there was this moment at the retreat. So the facilitator was a woman,
Okay.
but the husband was also a part of the retreat. And there were these moments throughout the retreat when I watched the dynamic dance between the two of them. And she, as this like healer and as this support, like this person that has so much creative energy and so much healing energy and whatnot, she thrived because her husband was there as this protective, safe support around
Mm,
her.
beautiful.
And watching him, what we would say, like serve her, but he was essentially like, how can I really support and protect her in her zone of genius? Like, how can I really allow her to like use her gifts and use her strengths in this capacity? And I was watching this like whole thing unfold. I was like, this is the dance between masculine and femininity. Like, people think that it's this fight between one or the other, or that if women rise, that it's downfall of men, or if men are rising, it's the downfall of women, or if it's whatever. It's like it really was it was like such a beautiful representation of the fact that like there's so much power and so much creation, there's so much healing, there's so much energy comprised in that feminine energy, and that it's the masculine that provides the protection and the support and the container to allow that part to actually do its job. And
Yes.
when I left there, it was kind of that reminder of like, I think that's the missing piece that we see happening right now. There's this like threat of the masculinity from the femininity is out what they're feeling. And so in order to like maintain the sense of masculinity and control and dominance, which really is more toxic masculinity, there's
Totally.
this sense of like, I've got to push it down and keep it down so that she doesn't rise into her power, rather than really recognizing, like you said, that the healing's going to come, the new ideas, the creation's going to come when the men and the masculinity provides that protection and provides the support so she can let down her walls and actually do the thing that she's here to do. And I think if we look at all of it, like the women that really thrive are not, like you said, like nervous system, like this is so much, but like a woman can't operate at her best when she's in self-protection mode.
Mhm.
She's not she's
Mhm.
not doing what she's here to do, and like healing and providing and creating and all these things, if she feels like I have to self protect in some
Mhm.
way, shape, or fashion. And so it's like, it really is like, how do we help create that? And I see this like beautiful symbiotic relationship between the masculine and the feminine in that way. That once the men really realize that their power and their legacy comes in, how do I help protect her energy so that she can do what she's here to do? I
Mm.
think that's the piece that's missing. Otherwise, it's like, well, I have to be the provider. I have to be the protector. I have to do all the things. Like I have to keep her, keep her in her box. Like I'm the end all be all. When it really, that's not the piece. Like, yes, it's the protection. Yes, it's
Mhm.
the providing, but it's like so that she can work her magic. And anyway, it was such a
Yes.
beautiful piece of that.
Yeah. So, and that's really just men saying, I still want to matter and I still want to be
Hmm.
significant, which is so beautiful when you really like hear it for what it is. But what you're pointing to is a human condition. So going back to this idea that we're on the precipice of so much change. I mean, I've
Hmm.
never seen this much innovation and change and expansion in my lifetime. And what one of the things that we tend to do when we're afraid is we go into something that we call in psychology dualistic thinking. It's
Hmm.
also called black or white thinking. And so what people are doing is they're saying, okay, women are rising. It's either we take power or they're going to take it all and hate us and we're insignificant. And that is not it. There's a
Yeah.
bazillion shades of gray. We need our men, but we need our men healed so that
Hmm.
they can protect us, so that what we can do what we were designed to do. We were designed to rest, receive, and create. Think about human pregnancy: rest, receive, create, rest, receive, create. And so, us rising into our power is really just about making our creations more potent and more life changing and more soul giving. And just, it's really about uplifting the freaking frequency of the planet. It's not about putting men down. The
Yeah.
more they protect, or even the masculine, because this
Yeah.
is the same in same sex marriages. The masculine partner holds so that our creations can be more partner, but it's not about carrying on without the men or the
Hmm.
masculine. We need them yin to yang. But
Yeah.
our creation has been missing in the puzzle. And I think that's why so many things are off. And I think men still want to be relevant and matter, and I don't blame them. And so at the same time as they're healing, we need to show up for them and support that. And as the same time as we're trying to surrender, we need them to step up and like, help us and support us. And so yeah, what you're pointing to is basically dualistic thinking. It's either this or that. So I'm going to default to this because that is scary. And it's like, no, you guys, we are creating a new normal, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Everybody freaking matters. One is not more important. But when we can live in harmony and women get to actually maximize our God given gifts, watch out, because studies show we do good. Not every woman is a saint, and that's okay. But studies show where our wealth goes when we step into wealth.
Yeah.
Studies show what we do. And so to me, I'm like, we need heart-led women to get rich yesterday.
Yeah. I 100% agree with
And I
you.
think we do it with our masculine supporting us
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Well, even within a business, right? So like I talk about like feminine business and things like that. There is this essence of like in order for me to step into that creation, into that flow energy and into that receiving energy, I have to have some masculine structure. I have to have some systems in place that really allow that to be possible, right? So it's not it's not even in that sense of like they can't exist without each other. Like they need each other in order for the feminine parts of my
Yes.
business to manifest through.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have to have the masculine structure. Like I can't, and this is where I hear too, like about feminine business all the time is like people talk about just leading their business from intuition, leading from flow, and leading and whatnot. And it's great. And I 100% agree that you want to lead your business from intuition and flow and things like that. There's also numbers, and numbers tell a story too. And so there's this element of like, a lot of times I think we don't even always have a really good understanding of whether or not we're listening to fear or we're listening to intuition. And so I'll hear people say, "Well, I my intuition's telling me I'm going to jump to this new thing and I'm going to jump this new thing," when in reality it's I'm avoiding this thing over here that felt really hard instead. So it's like this caveat of like we have to really lean into both. Like we have to be able to support with both. So I would love even just to like have this conversation too, to hear how this has been for you and your husband and your son. Because I think that there's this element too of I have had to, as a really ambitious woman, and as somebody who really is a driver and somebody who grew up very strong willed, very independent. Like I remember like the classic feminine, chivalry, male chivalry sorts of things. I hated it. Like, I remember one time my husband's stepdad telling him that he was not being manly enough to walk on the street side of the road because when he and I were walking down the sidewalk, and I was like, "Dude, I can walk wherever on the sidewalk I want to walk. Like, he doesn't have to walk on the street side to be my protector, right?" So I used to be like almost so opposed to a lot of that because I'm like, I'm a confident, independent woman who can take care of herself. I don't need somebody else to like be my protector. And so coming from that place now over the years, like trying to let go of some of that energy and really let my husband lead in some of those other areas, letting him, step into a little bit more of that provider, protector sort of role and allowing myself to like not submit, that's the wrong word, but like to soften a little bit of those edges that I had has been really interesting to watch. And then to watch that dance, and that I will admit that it's far from where I'd like it to be, like
Same.
eventually, but to watch like and have that conversation with my son and like watching him like how do you treat your sisters and yet at the same time really honoring that they are independent and they are strong and they can. And I had this conversation one point, there was with talking with a couple of dads, and they were talking about their daughters and about like how they wanted to raise them to be strong independent women, and I was like, do we
Mm.
really need our women to be strong? Like, is that really the right word? Like,
Stronger
do
than we already are.
yeah, like, I'm like, is that really the element of that? Is that the is that the adjective that we really want women to have is strong, independent women? Like, is that I don't think that that's like missing the mark there a little bit. So I would love to hear kind of like where you're at in that with your own relationship in that, because I think you're probably similar to me. Like we're both
Mm.
like, let's do this,
Yeah.
let's go, let's
Yep.
create.
Yep.
That I would say I'm probably have in the history been more of the masculine role in our relationship. And so it's like that balance of like really learning to soften into that feminine and allow him to lead in that masculine way. And like, yeah, that
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah. So first, I want to say the part of you that was like, I don't need anyone to protect me on the sidewalk was interestingly enough your protector.
Mhm.
That was because I had the same thing, girl. I was just like, I don't need no man. You don't I was like, I didn't really like affection. I was
Mhm.
so hard. And so my dynamic is really interesting with my husband because he met me as a single mom. So my husband is not my son's father. And
Mhm.
And this just points to how much work we still have to do about this. I would say that I am a masculine woman and he is a more feminine man. And if that makes you go, "Ugh," which I will not judge you if it does, that tells you how far we have to go as a culture. It's like not sexy to say I am a more masculine woman and he is a more feminine man, but it's the truth of who we are. So he met me and I was climbing the corporate ladder and I was a single mom. And it was like my family had moved away and my ex was cheating on me. And then he ended up being with the woman and having a baby 18 months after Cam. And so I was a fighter. I was a fighter. I also am the oldest of three, and both my siblings had to fight for their lives at some point in their lives. So I actually made a conscious decision at 8 years old that I was never going to be a burden, that I was going to be a perfectionist, and that I could stand on my own 2 feet. And so when my husband met me, I was so guarded and so walled up and so masculine that honestly, I didn't even fully let him in for like 3 years of our relationship. And I also was like judgmental and critical that he wasn't more masculine,
Mhm.
and we've had to do a lot of work, and I went first of healing my protective parts so that I could soften, so that I could lean in to letting him hold me, even if the way in which he holds me doesn't look like this super masculine thing.
Mhm.
And what I love about my husband is, yeah, you're not going to get that from him, but he is the deepest, sexiest man you've ever seen. And then we raised my son Camden, who we realized at 5 was an insane artist. And he did all the things. He did the skiing and the skateboarding and the soccer and the art and the music, but it was really clear that music was his thing. And so we really fostered authenticity, and his generation is different. Like their gender roles are very fluid. I am learning more and more every day. He's had a girlfriend for 4 years. Like sometimes I can't tell who's the masculine and feminine. And so it's been this interesting journey of where like I'm still going to be more masculine because the part of my nature and my makeup is to be strong and to be driven and to use my voice and my power. I'm a Scorpio. Like I don't want that to change. And my husband is a man, but dude, he has emotional intelligence and he's soft and he gets it. And so it's cool because the more we heal, the more we find a better like way that we operate.
Mhm.
But then in raising kids, it's been really beautiful because, my son is now 22 and is doing the thing he loves and is living a life and he likes himself and therefore he's good to others. And I'm like, dude, we did good. And then I have a daughter who's 8 and her and daddy are like two peas in a pod. And I swear, he's more sensitive than she is. She's eaten him alive, which is beautifully, organically growing his masculine. And so
Yeah.
it's like, you guys, all the rules are just out. It's like, be who you are. We
Mhm.
get to be both. We get to be masculine and feminine. And so do our partners. And so do our kids. And instead of having judgment about it or thinking it's weird, what kind of worlds would we create? Like, I think about if I would have forced my kid to do sports,
Yeah.
he probably could have done okay, but the world would miss out on his gift, which is jazz music. And he is like an old soul who was meant to do this. And so when I think about that one little example, Renee, I'm like, how many? And then you look at like kids who don't feel like they can come out and their suicide rates.
Mhm.
And I'm like, the magic that the world is missing out of because we are afraid to break out of some of these conservative boxes
Yeah.
is detrimental to our evolving as a species. And I understand it's different and it's foreign and we don't all have the language and the tools to navigate it. Trust me, there's some things that my kid brings to me that make me straight uncomfortable. Okay. He came home and his nails were painted and his earring. I'm like, you have more jewelry on than I do. But he's a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't worry about Camden if somebody finds him in an alley, like he's a dude. He can hold his own. So we're all, I feel like navigating new territory. But the more we can like allow all those pieces and parts to come through, I don't know. And maybe this is me being naive because I love hearing everybody's perspective on it. And I really do like appreciate it, even if it's different than mine, because I love to grow. And people have beliefs based on like how they were raised. And I get that. But
Mhm.
I'm just like, what would be possible if we all like got to walk home to the truth of who we are and expressed ourselves freely? What sort of art would we create?
Mhm.
How would we educate in our education systems? How would we collaborate multinationally? How would we work life balance? Like, oh, and I see it as a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So it gets to be both. But I am
Yeah.
definitely I'm like a pretty dude most times. I kill the spiders. Let's just say this. I kill the spiders and my husband jumps on the couch and screams. I would rather do like yard work any day of the week. My husband does all the cleaning, but like we have found a mix that
Yeah.
works. And we keep like he keeps becoming more masculine and I keep softening. But I
Mhm.
am not going to soften until I feel safely in like held by a strong masculine. And the world hasn't shown us that we're safe
Mhm.
yet. So don't get
100%.
pissed at us that we have our walls up and our guards up when we're deathly afraid to take an Uber at 2 a.m. If you're
Mhm.
not deathly afraid to take an Uber because you're a dude, you don't know what it's like. The more protected we feel, the more we will soften.
Yeah.
But we need masculine to get shit done. And I love that.
Mhm.
I absolutely
Mhm.
love that. I believe that structure liberates creativity.
Mhm. So much so. It's like it really just creates, and I know that there's like a lot I've seen. Kind of went on a rant about it on social media recently about this whole like soft girl era and how there's a lot of ambitious women who are kind of pushing back on the soft girl era and talking about like it sucks. They're not into it. They don't want to just stay home and bake bread and whatnot. And I had this whole kind of like visceral thing because I think personally, when a woman really is in fully embodied in her feminine, that's when she steps into her biggest drive. Like, I think that like there's this element of like when you have that fire that's burning deep inside of you because you want to create this thing that you know, like you right now, like I can tell you're like fully embodied in your feminine in the sense of like, this is the impact I want to make. This is the vision that I want to make. This is the change I want to make in the world. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from making that happen. I think that is coming from your feminine. Like that is your feminine 100%. And then the masculine is the piece that's going to help you make it happen. But like there's this essence of like when women truly are in their feminine, there's this like sacral inner just fire burn that you can't stop them from going after these big ideas or these big creations or these big goals and the impact that they want to make. It's not that women who are in their feminine are just like soft, flowy, willy nilly, like just baking in bread in long dresses. Like that to me is not the definition of femininity. Like it can be,
It can be. Yeah.
but that's not like I think in our society right now, there's this like cultural shift that people are associating femininity with just staying at home, baking bread, and being in our flowy long dresses. And I think that that's a sore misconception of what fully being embodied in our feminine really looks like. Because for me, one, I know I'm like I'm not fully in my feminine all the time, nor do I ever expect to be. But I know that when I really tap into like that heart womb energy, that is my source of like all of my drive. Like that's the part of me that will go after the biggest goals, that will do the biggest things, that will reach out to the most scary opportunities, all of these things because I'm not operating from a place of my masculine head like self-doubt critical thinker. I'm operating from this like internal source powered energy. And that's different. And I think that there's an element there that like we're just not seeing that yet. Like there's still just so much misconception, like you said, around what masculinity is and what femininity is and what the dance between them really looks like and where do those lines cross and that it's a fluid thing. Like it really is. Like there are even like when we look in business, like there are some days when I'm like structured to the T. Like, this is what we're doing. We're putting together the landing page and we're tightening up the funnels and we're doing all the things. And there are some days where it's like, I'm just going to create and I'm going to just flow and I'm going to, and like, so there's this element in this dance of like, we are all both and we exist on a spectrum of all both. And there are going to be seasons of heavier into one than the other. There are going to be phases of one heavier than the other. There's going to be some days with my husband when he's going to be more in that more masculine role. And there's going to be days when he's more in the feminine and I'm in the masculine. And like just this like fluidity dance, I think there's a piece of that richness, I guess I would put the word there, like the richness that we are missing because we're putting it all in these boxes of what it has to be or what it looks like or what it should be or whatever, that we're just missing on the spectrum. Even just singing music, right? Like there's all these tones and there's all these notes and there's all these sounds and there's all these elements that we can bring into music, but if we were only playing with 5 keys, it would be really boring music, and I think that that's kinda where we're at right now. We're just like, we're still only playing with 5 keys. Can we get the whole keyboard, you know?
Yes. And this is why women midlife are waking up and going, is this it?
Mhm,
Is this it? And listen, I'm an ambitious woman. So are you. And so are the women that I work with. And it's not a problem to be driven and ambitious. It's that the how that we've been getting results is utilizing an outdated paradigm and framework that was never meant for us and how we operate. And I know I'm speaking to
mhm,
the choir with you with the
mhm,
cycle syncing thing. And so for me, it is how do we still have big goals and desires and dreams, but the way in which we get them,
yeah,
it's because I've done it both ways, guys. I did this straight up hustle and I got results. I was very
mhm,
successful in my corporate career, but I burnt out at 33. That is not
mhm,
normal. And now I've been in this business. This year will be 10 years that I've been doing counseling and coaching. I have far surpassed what I would have done in corporate, but I shit you not, I take half my day for self nourishment. I
mhm,
am literally frolicking around the house. I'm meditating, I'm breath work, I'm dancing. And it's like the part of me that creates, that goes for it. It's like after I've like connected to the earth and my body and source and I feel alive and turned on and like I have a saying, is it nips hard? Because if it's not nips hard, that it's not for me. And so
mhm,
it's just using our body and our femininity and our flow and our energy and the earth and music and all of these different ways that have not been supported in the business world to get results. So we get to
mhm,
be ambitious, but the path that we travel to get there is gonna give a shit about us taking care of the whole being that looks like
mhm,
mind, body, spirit, and it looks like remembering that we have an infinite wealth of creation through the portal of our womb and doing things that have been considered weird and witchy. But you know what? Like, I've never thought of my next big creation. I download it after taking a hike in the mountains or playing in the ocean or in the shower or after a juicy dance class or meditation. And that's how I
mhm,
know because personally, I've tried both ways. This way suits me better. So we get to have the ambition, but the way in which we go about creating our vision and manifesting it, it gets to be different. And it should based on our makeup
yeah,
as beings.
yeah, I know. We could keep talking for literally
I
ever. I
know,
know.
I know. Part one of
Ugh,
100.
I know. I
And
used to
wait, the
make
last thing I want to say, the
yeah,
last thing I want to say is the energy that we've been spending as women to keep up. If you just look at like our bodies, the energy that we have spent trying to have a good looking body, the energy that we've spent trying to keep up, think about if we reclaimed that collectively and channeled it into our family, our relationships, and our creations. What would be possible? And this is the question that gives me goosebumps every day because I do believe we will solve complex problems when we stop just bleeding energy on shit that doesn't matter and we start channeling it into these powerful things that do. And what matters to me gets to be different than what matters to you. And that's the point.
Yeah.
So let's reclaim the energy. Like when I think about how much energy I've spent in my lifetime trying to have a perfect body, I could cry. Did you know that 96% of women don't like their body? 90, or it might be 94. Okay, it might be 94, y'all. But
Somewhere
we,
in the 90s.
like
Yeah.
the amount of energy. No, we're not spending energy to hate ourselves. We're not spending any energy to sabotage ourselves. We're not spending energy to try to be something that's a total illusion and doesn't even exist, because perfection is a wall that just keeps going up and up and up, and there is no
Mhm.
end. Instead, we're claiming that energy back and we're pouring it into the things that matter. And I believe we will build a beautiful world that we're proud to pass down to our children when we start living in alignment with concepts like you and I are discussing
Yeah.
today.
So good, Brooke. Okay, where can people find you?
All right, my love. So I love to keep my messy life real on Instagram. So it's at Brooke Jean Unperfected. I have a podcast. It's called the Unperfected Pod. And the website is liveunperfected.com. So come say hello. I would love to hear what you guys thought about this episode. And if there's any, like updates you want to give us or something that really landed, I always love hearing it, because I don't just want to talk about it. I actually want to
Mhm.
be an inspiring frequency that guides women to actually take action in their lives. So keep us
Mhm.
posted if anything in this conversation landed. And Renee, thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me on your show.
It was so fun. I loved it. Thanks for coming.